and lie on your back. So the process of a scan is to really tune in. And not only to your contact with the floor, which is very good, meaning that ability to listen to you in the environment outside of you. Contact, pressure, sensations. But also listen internally. This is a gift, and too often we tune it out. We don't want to listen. We don't want to trust ourselves. Those internal sensations are within you. And hopefully we can listen not only when they're negative or not so nice, but also when they're pleasant. Our whole concept of health, the medical model, which I'm so grateful for, still looks at the negative and how to try to fix it to bring you back to what is normal. But do we really look at what is the more optimal way? That you don't hold that, but you want to, that's what you're looking for. So that when we fall away from the more optimal, can we recognize it sooner than later before it becomes a problem? Now, very slowly, notice where you choose to have your arms and your legs. And if it's not, and I'm not correcting, I'm just saying if the arms are not resting beside you, keep them where they are. Some have them arms overhead. Some have them long beside you. And slowly, quietly, maybe using your eyes or your nose or your ears or your mouth, the teleceptors, roll your head a little, not to the maximum, a little from side to side. Notice what else moves. And then if your arms are overhead, which is fine, it's not obviously comfortable, then just slowly elongate your arms downward, whether they're out to the side 90 degree-ish or lower down 45 degrees from your side. And then with your arms down beside you, go back and roll your head again. It's different. Neither is right or wrong, but there's a difference depending on where our arms are organized that may affect the rolling of the head minimally. And just notice if one side feels simpler, easier, the other one is not as, doesn't mean you can't. But why did you choose the side you chose? And now I want to give, before I have you transition, listening to how you're going to do this, I want to give you an option. I'm going to ask you to roll onto your left side. If you can use your left arm as a pillow to rest your head on, fine. If that isn't viable for you, find an equivalent of support for your head so that you have a sense that your head, neck, and spine are aligned. And when you get to your left side, you're going to place your right hand in a push-up position near your chest, and then you're going to slide your bent right leg onto the floor in front of your bent left leg. But for anybody, if this position of the right leg bent and resting on the floor in front is too much in your hip joint, because it's already biasing your lower half towards the floor, then you can put some kind of support underneath your right knee, your right foreleg and foot to keep it a little bit more parallel to the ground. instead of lying on the ground. This is simply a question of what you feel is simpler and easier, not that one is right or wrong. I'm giving options. And if it's not a problem to rest comfortably with your right knee resting on the floor, notice it's not just in front, it's a little above, isn't it? And then you just rest there to feel what changed in your contour on the floor once you moved into this position with the right leg bent on the floor in front of the left bent leg. There's a little bit of a twist in your spine. And now with your right hand in a push-up position in front of your chest, can it be more or less like an A-frame, that the line of your upper arm from the shoulder joint is parallel to the floor? And therefore your elbow down the right forearm into your hand. And if you need to use the fist as a modification for your wrist, fine. But that's a right angle. And then very slowly, listen to how you breathe. Start to send your right elbow forward. And then you come back to neutral. So the idea is, if the arm is at a right angle, your right elbow, as you glide it forward, because the right shoulder it's protracting, it's sliding and rolling a little forward. Maybe your head starts to roll off of the head support or your long left arm. If you're using a head support, make sure that your face is towards the edge of the head support instead of in the middle of it, so that the pad or the towel, whatever you're using, the pillow, does not block the movement of your head. And you just make it enjoyable, luxuriate, and feel what happens to the left arm if you're resting on the left arm. Is it palm face down, palm sideways, palm face up? Do you feel something in that left arm, if you're using it, is actually beginning a little rotation? Notice how you breathe. I might suggest, as you rest, you inhale. As you initiate gliding your right shoulder, the right elbow forward, you exhale. And then you inhale and you come back to the neutral. And because of the way you've situated your legs, maybe even your right knee slides a little bit on the floor forward, and then you go back to neutral. Maybe it just glides a little bit back. And feel how you're rolling over the ribs on your left side. In one direction, it feels like you're rolling a little bit more, biasing towards your belly. And feel with this twist in your spine, it probably feels pretty nice. It's congruent. But as you come back to neutral, and then you can just go a little further, as if to begin to roll a little back. Feel what happens, because your pelvis, the weight of your right leg on the floor, is a weight that is creating a differentiation in your spine. It's creating a little bit more of a twist. And so you feel, and anybody who wants to modify and keep the right leg stacked on top of the left, that's another wonderful modification. You always listen to where for you it feels more comfortable. In a sense, you're babying yourself versus pushing into resistance where already there's information that's not getting your attention in a positive way. And notice, do you start to roll through your right hand or fist, if that's the modification you're using? As you take the elbow forward, does the right hand roll towards the pinky side? And as you glide the right elbow back, sending the right shoulder blade a little back to neutral, does the weight in your right hand shift? And then if you try to go just a little bit further, as if to open, and the head might begin to roll a little off of your left arm. You just go back and forth. Notice what you feel in your spine. And is there something that's indicating through your right knee, your right hip, this is a constraint? Now, if I suggested that as you were rolling forward and then back through neutral, how do you breathe? If I encouraged you to find as easy a way as you can from this position, what would happen that it would feel light and easy, that you could continue to roll back and go onto your back and rest? What would you do with the right knee? Would you lift it immediately? Would you slide it up towards you, more folding as if it could traverse over your chest? Or would you slide it back on top of the stacked leg and then back? All of these things are possible. What did you choose? What did you choose? And then you come and you lie on your back and you rest. And notice your contact. Now, it will be a two-sided lesson, but we're going to continue on the left side for a while to clarify. What does it clarify? Well, let the lesson inform you. Go back and just roll your head a little from side to side and notice, is it the exact same? Is it a little different? Does it feel easy and pleasant? And is it just your head, the teleceptors, something in your neck that moves? Or is there subtly an indication that there's a little bit of shift of weight happening throughout you? And then slowly return back onto your left side into this position. If you're using your left arm, you move the left arm in such a way that it's there to receive your head. If you're using head support, well, by all means, use your right hand, your right arm, to get that head support in place for you that you could roll right back onto it. And start the movement again with your right hand in a push-up position, gliding a little forward, back into the neutral, and a little back. Don't you push into the right hand to help send that elbow a little further back? And just re-explore, refining what you've already been doing. There's a twist in your spine happening. Where? Is it happening when you're rolling forward, elbow going forward, shoulder blade going forward? Listen to how that right shoulder blade slides over your ribs. When you go forward, listen to what happens in your sternum, in your chest, as well as what's happening in the back of you. Is one portion of you folding, getting concave, and the other aspect wider, bowing back, getting longer? And listen to your ribs on the left side. And begin to allow also, as long as it's easy, a little bit more movement, equaling the amount you go forward, the amount you go back. Is your head free to roll over the supports? When you go forward, can you feel, unless there's traction on the floor, can you feel that your right hip and knee glide a little forward? So that if you were so inclined to lengthen the left leg, you might feel that you could traverse a little bit more toward your belly. Don't go too far, but just feel that if you do that, and then you reorganize yourself to come back through the neutral, feel what is the moment that you would allow and welcome your left knee to rebend and come underneath you as a support instead of having gone long to begin to traverse to your belly. Just have to do a little bit. Now, when you start to say, ooh, I want to go back the equal amount, don't strive to do it, to achieve it, but think that right knee is still bent on the floor. Maybe as you're pushing into your right hand, shifting the weight through your hand, allowing your elbow to arc back, your shoulder blade to glide back along your spine and down the spine. Maybe the right hand wants to start to peel away from the floor. Keep the bend in the elbow. And maybe notice what you choose to do with your right knee. Do you have it lift off of the floor, but the foot's still there? Or do you slide the knee a little closer towards you, folding it towards you, to then see if it lifts? If the right leg begins to de-weight and lift, is it a portion of the leg that lifts? Or does the whole leg lift? The whole thigh, knee, foreleg, and foot as a structure. But it needs to be light. Just notice what comes to you first. And you continue this forward. One direction is as if you were leading towards your belly. The other direction is guiding you towards your back. You're still rolling over the left ribs. Can you feel those left ribs? How many of them get your attention? Can you feel the outer edge of your left shoulder blade into the shoulder blade as you're traversing backwards with this little bit of a twist? And then slowly pause on your left side. You can stay in the position. You can go into stacked legs. And now this time, think about it. Your right arm, the whole structure, is created what I call an A-frame. The only portion of this A-frame that's going to change is in the shoulder joint, not in the elbow, and possibly also change in the wrist. So continue this movement now of gliding forward with the elbow shoulder blade. Notice what happens in your right hip and knee, and back. And as you start to discern, I could go further back, that your right hand would peel away from the floor. Keep the A-frame of your right arm so that the elbow is lifting, the forearm is hanging, as if you could bring your right elbow towards the ceiling. That's it. You can soften the wrist if you need. When you roll back to then roll a little forward, sending the elbow forward, your hand, whether it's in a fist or it's in a push-up position, assumes that position as it nears the ground. But as it lifts and you start to guide that right elbow over you, let the forearm, that 90-degree angle between your forearm, elbow, and upper arm, maintain that. Just as you notice, if your right knee wants to lift, can you maintain that angle of 90 degrees between your thigh, knee, and foreleg? That's it. And now, as you continue to explore this, could you look at your right hand and follow your right hand as you begin to traverse towards your back? Does the elbow and the knee stay twisted? Or does the knee and the elbow start to say, we could have a dowel stick relationship between us, that they both move together? That's it. There you go. And you start to open yourself toward your back. And then you start to fold back onto the floor. The hand and the knee, do they touch the floor at the same time? To glide forward, then to glide back. And now use this, but see if you can maintain the 90 degrees at the shoulder, the upper arm, elbow, and forearm. The shoulder is going to open up and go back, but that you don't, there you go. And then find your way onto your back this way. And then you rest. And just discern, is something different? And is it discernible that something of benefit, improvement, comfort in how you're lying on your back now from the beginning, which might have been just as comfortable? But can you discern something? Something is shifting. Contact, breathing. We can assess our proprioception. That's our sensation of everything outside of us where we're resting, the contact, the quality of it. But also listen to that internal sensation within. Softening, widening, lengthening, deepening. These are just some of the descriptive words. They're limited. So notice what you notice. But we do help direct our attention to things ordinarily we may not be paying attention to. Now slowly organize yourself so it just feels so fluid and pleasant. How to get back onto your left side and return to this position of the lesson. The right hand is in a push-up position. The right knee slides bent onto the floor in front, and I'm suggesting a little above the left knee that's bent. And now you're just going to rest here comfortably on your left side. Now, I often share, we have 12 ribs, 2 pair of them. So it's possible you're feeling the equal and opposite sensation of the ribs on the floor compared to the right ribs towards the ceiling. And I divide these 12 ribs into thirds. The first thoracic rib down to the fourth are really high up underneath your armpit. Then there's the second third, thoracic fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. Those are the mid-range of our ribs. And then, of course, we have the lowest area. They're called the false floating ribs, the last two. False because they share cartilage that connects them to the sternum. And start slowly as you exhale, gently hugging and leaning. Which portion of the third of these ribs are you thinking of? You exhale and you gently press and lean them into the floor. And then you inhale, you let go. And do each area that you start with at least 2 or 3 times to get clear. Am I literally in this upper third, middle, or lower third? Or nah, it's sort of mixed. It's not so clear. Maybe I've got a little bit of the upper and the start of the middle. But just explore this gentle way of, I like to speak of hugging and leaning as you lean and depress into the floor. Now, you could do it rolling, but think about more leaning straight back down into the floor, which might create a little bit of side bending. That's it. That's it. So it's a little different movement than rolling. You lean and then you release. And then start to traverse different ribs. You can go down the rib basket on the left side and up. What does that have to do with your pelvis and your head? And you feel a correlation, this rib basket, when you lean and depress or release, it has a relationship in your pelvis and your head. And then as you've gone down the ribs, think about, well, the side of your pelvis on the floor that you can feel, the left side, and gently lean, hug your pelvis on the left side into the floor. What happened to your right hip? The right side of your pelvis when you did that. And then you could think to traverse through the left leg as well as the right leg, down the left side of the left knee. Ooh, what about the right knee? Down through the right ankle, the right foot. Left knee, down through the left foreleg, ankle, and foot. So you're doing this gentle depression and release to feel how it moves through you. Maybe there's side bending that starts to happen. One side is getting longer, the other one is according together. Maybe there's some rolling. You remember, there's a twist in your spine. Just play. Notice the relationship that happens if you lean the right knee into the floor. What happens to the left foreleg and foot? What happens when you depress the right ankle or foot into the floor? What happens to the right knee? Yeah, you're playing. And you can create a wave of these gentle leaning, depressing, and releasing. You can do it faster as long as it's enjoyable, and seek a quality of even, smooth, easy. If you start to notice, oh, it's getting a little wonky, slow it down. And where are the areas, if I then said, ooh, you could traverse from the lower half through the chest, upper. Well, you could gently depress the left shoulder into the floor. And then compare what happens if you just depress straight down into the floor with the right hand. And then you could think, oh, what if I depressed the left elbow into the floor? And then if you think, well, what if I depressed the left side of my cheek or forehead into my left arm on the floor? I'm just listening. What is this doing? How am I breathing when I explore this? And then you pause for a moment. And then go back to that original exploration of the rolling pattern while you're still rolling and leaning through your ribs, through the left side of your pelvis. Maybe the right side of your pelvis and the right knee are gliding forward. And then find that movement of forward, biasing a little bit more towards your belly, and then keeping that A-frame, that structure of your right leg and your right arm as you start to traverse through your side onto your back, but making it reversible. Building slowly. And then reverse. Unless you go, no, it's time to rest on my back. Just find whether it's time for you to rest or you want to do another round of this rolling after we had done this leaning and depressing, does the knee and the elbow, the right knee and the elbow, work together? And does your left arm and your left leg have some understanding of working together? Use the modifications, whether you need to use a fist or a flat wrist, flat hand. Use the modifications if for you and your spine you need to have a pillow or a support that the right leg, foreleg rests on. This is being intelligent. But look for when the elbow starts to sail through the air with the greatest of ease. Is your head, eyes, nose, teleceptors following the hand? Is the knee following the arm? Until you feel just fluidly, pleasantly, you come to lie on your back and rest. And if it's not fluid and elegant yet, so what? Playful, enjoyable. You could do it simultaneous, or maybe you're exploring sequential. And then come to your back and rest. The question is, the limbs, the arm, the leg, the right side, since we've been on the left so far, did they feel heavy and weighted to lift? Was something happening in the joint structure that just felt like, it's compressing? Or was there a sense that, I kept that A-frame? What does this A-frame do for you? It's a structure, like a boomerang, like a sickle. The structure stays. A triangle. Or if we give up the angles, that right angle, does all of a sudden the limbs get heavier? We're looking to find an easier way. Is it when they work together in tandem, or whether it's sequential? It depends. And then slowly, via your back, roll onto your right side. So you know the schema, but we had you explore one side so that when you went to rest on your back, was it more discernible differences? And of course, notice the difference when you go to lie on your right side. It's going to be different. Maybe on one side you need a head support and the other one you use your arm. Maybe on one side you use your arm straight and the other side you use your arm but the elbow is bent. Find what works comfortably for you, not pushing into resistance. And then very slowly, place your left hand in a push-up position in front of your chest. If the upper left arm or elbow is near your torso, I can assure you it's not at a right angle. The fingers of your left hand will be pointing upwards on the floor, unless you're using a fist as a modification. And now just very slowly explore the gliding and sliding of your left elbow, which means, isn't it the left shoulder blade that is possibly initiating or coming along with the left elbow forward and back to neutral? And every time you go forward and you feel, oh, I'm rolling more towards my belly, feel how that right arm rotates and your head instead of, it could be rolling to the floor, but maybe you still want to look forward. So it's more that your face, the left side of your face, starts to meet the floor. Or maybe it's your nose and how you come back. The pressure in your left hand shifts. And then you just continue to grow the movement so that you're not just coming back to neutral, but you're beginning to explore how the left hand will press into the floor to send that elbow a little back into the upper arm. Shoulder blade will start to glide over the ribs and back, and the head will follow, but just go slow. Maybe turn your teleceptors towards the ceiling. You can imagine what we were doing on the other side. You can explore. It's different. We organize differently. Just alone, we have 3 lobes of our lungs. On the right side, we only have 2 on the left because there's space for the heart. So right off the bat, there's a major difference. We have our liver, the biggest organ, on the right side, on those lower portions of the ribs. We have smaller organs of our immune system on the left side. So of course there's a difference. And start to grow the movement so that eventually you start to look at your left hand and your left elbow at a 90-degree angle with the forearm is beginning at that right angle to sail towards the ceiling. That's it. And if the left knee lifts and the foot stays on the floor, just feel you're giving up some of the twist, but not everything. You just keep playing. And maybe because it's a subtle little diagonal, an oblique angle between your left elbow and your left knee. Are they working in tandem with each other, or is it sequential? And then if the entire left arm starts to lift and the hand can dangle, well, does the entire left leg bent at 90 degrees in the hip and in the knee lift also? Or is it sequential? It's the knee, and then you feel the weight on the inside edge of your left foot, and then eventually the foot lifts. Play with where you think you feel it's lighter. And do you keep exactly the 90 degree at your left hip and knee? Or maybe does the left knee scooch a little closer towards you? Where does it get lighter for the limbs to lift? That's it. See, it's a movement, but pay attention. Is it reversible when you come back to the floor and roll forward? And then roll towards your back, and then roll back. There you go. Now, the next time you find your way pretty much towards your back, go to your back, lengthen your limbs, rest. And feel your contact. We're looking at timing of our coordination. Listen to your breathing, those external as well as internal sensations. You could also just leisurely roll your head from side to side to discern, oh, did something there shift? These are subtleties, but when we can listen to the subtleties, they're so significant. We get information. Do I keep pushing more if I felt already some weight or resistance to make it happen? Or could I keep looking for, oh, it flowed. It just seemed light. It seemed effortless. Yes, I'm working. Yes, I'm lifting limbs. Yes, I'm rolling. How slow can you do it to feel you have full control on demand, your demand? And slowly return to your right side. And for a moment, imagine what you did on the left side when we shifted gears and we started like a wave, leaning and depressing into the floor different portions of our structure. Now think about it. What if I said, start with your right foot, the outside edge of your right foot on the floor. Just gently depress and let go. Depress and let go into the floor. And then think to depress and lean gently into the floor your right knee. Yep, that's it. Feel the relationship it had with your right foot. Then go back and depress the right foot. Then depress the right knee. Yeah. And then depress from the right knee into the right hip. Gentle. Ooh. And then go, oh, wait a minute. What if I traversed from my right hip across to my left hip that's suspended above the ground, but I sort of had this wave move through the left leg down to the left knee depressing, and then down to the left foot, and then back to the left knee. How do I get from the left knee all the way over through my pelvis to the right hip and the right knee and the right foot? Yeah, you can do them together. Feel if you depress both feet into the floor, what happens to both knees? Feel what happens when you depress both knees into the floor, what happens to the feet? Feel what's happening to your pelvis. And then once you got back to the pelvis, start to trail through the right side of your, what we call the iliac crest, the rim of the pelvis. Can you find it? And when you do that, what happens to the left side of your pelvis? Yeah. Is there a movement that trails up through you while you're leaning and depressing a portion of your skeleton into the floor? And then it's just a short little jaunt to start to explore gentle leaning and depressing into the right ribs, into the floor. It's the lower third ribs. It's the middle third ribs. It's the upper third of the ribs on the right side near the armpit. And what happens if you slowly glide the left elbow, left shoulder blade a little forward so that you're a little bit biased more towards the front of the right ribs, and you lean there. What happens to your head? What happens to your shoulder? What happens to your left hand in a push-up position? And then you come back more towards your true-ish right side while you still have the left knee on the floor in front. And maybe you depress gently into the right shoulder into the floor. What happened to your head? Maybe you depress gently the right side of your cheek or your temple into your right arm into the floor. And depress into your right elbow gently into the floor. What happened to the right hand? What happens in wherever you are towards your right wrist? You lean gently there. Or into the back of the hand or the side of the hand or the palm of your hand, the finger pads. Where is your right arm situated that you could lean and depress? And then maybe slowly you just glide the left arm just a little bit back. Maybe it doesn't, the left hand doesn't de-weight from the floor yet, but you've biased your ribs a little bit towards the right side or a little bit towards the going to the posterior, the back of you, just the beginning of turning, and you started to press there. Finding different places. Oh, what happens? What's the relationship to all of you? So you see, now you could encourage some of this leaning and depressing as you're in a process of rolling. In the movements, a little bit towards your belly, true side. I say ish because maybe the upper torso is on your true right side, but because that left knee is on the floor in front, you've created a twist in your spine. And every time, if you notice, my left knee lifts, when you put it back on the floor, is it going in the exact same place, or did you slide it to another place that feels like, ooh, that's going to possibly help if I return to that movement without leaning and depressing now, but you will be. But I think more of that beginning movement of gliding my left elbow forward. The shoulder blade's going to come with it. Maybe my left hip and knee glide forward. And then I'm going to go back towards my side. And then I'm going to use that left hand to depress to start gliding my elbow and my left shoulder blade back. Keep the A-frame in your arm. Keep it there. You'll still have that 90-degree-ish bend at your shoulder joint, 90-degree bend at your elbow. Don't worry about the wrist. And start to go back into that rolling pattern where you're looking, can I get both A-frames of my left arm and my left leg lifting lightly, rolling towards my back, and then coming back with those limbs, the hand, the knee, foreleg, and foot on the floor, and continuing it until I find my way on my back. Now, think about it for a moment. Imagine it. We did it on the left side. We did it on the right side. It was betwixt and between the pattern of rolling and then a pattern of what's often called worming or caterpillaring, leaning and depressing portions of your structure into the floor to listen to the equal and opposite lifting and lowering of the parts of you. Now, how would you roll? What's the easier side? To the side that felt the easiest in this position. But you don't give up the A-frames, not of either leg. The only one that might give up a form is, well, your arms eventually. Once you come to the side, is it your left side, the right side? Begin the process of rolling, gliding the elbow forward and back, lifting of the limbs with that 90-degree angle A-frame between the upper arm, the upper leg. It's only when you get onto your back, flip over your legs. The top arm now becomes the long arm as you go to the other side. The bottom arm becomes the new top arm with the A-frame, and roll as you change over the middle to the other side. Remember, it's the top leg that's in front. There you go. And then find your way to your back, flip the legs, flip the arms on your back, and roll to the other side. That's it. That's it. And keep playing. Start slow. Find where it is that it's that on your back changeover. The limbs change. And you go from one side to the other side. That's it. And all the while, you are leaning as you roll, but now through the back ribs, the shoulder blades to the sides, back and forth. The slower you go, you'll know what you're doing, how you breathe. It becomes so fluid and easy. And then, only then, when it became easy, the limbs are light to lift, you can go faster. That's a choice. But use your teleceptors so you know where you are in space. And then if all of a sudden you feel like, oh, I got this, well, go ahead and then find your way either to lie on your back again for a final scan, you've become sort of like a windmill, haven't you? The timing of the coordination. It's not just your arms, it's the shoulder blades, it's your chest, it's your collarbones, it's your sternum, it's your entire spine, folding, rounding, twisting. And you take a rest, or you go, no, this is so much fun. How? Okay, take your rest. Yep, there you go. Notice your contact. We played with different lessons about rolling this week. So if I said to you, once you've taken a final rest, if you so choose, how would you use this theme to roll to one side from your back and use that once you get to the side to come up to sit? Just figure out. So many possibilities. That's it. And then you feel like, no, I want to go back and I want to roll to the other side and I want to try it there. Look for where your limbs follow your torso. Where do you look? Maybe some folding needs to happen in order to come up, not extending. Where would you fold? Look down, meaning down towards your knees. Oh, there you go. That gave the leverage. And then slowly, from sitting, just feel the difference if you come to stand. Can you find the use of yourself? That's it. And then just notice in the vertical. Before you came to class, you were walking around, you were living life, you were doing things. And that's good. And the idea is, can I still feel that the doing is so good, but then I also learn how to settle and balance that other side of my nervous system to soothe, rest, restore, to be potent and active again. There's your lesson for this week.